Hi, this is Derek Murphy from creativity.com. I see a lot of questions online about writing fiction. I am not an expert fiction writer, as I've yet to publish any fiction books, but I am working on 5 novels now, and my PhD in literature. So I know a little bit about writing in general and the writing process. As someone who's tried to write novels for a very long time, a few things I've noticed recently that have helped me to actually make headway with my projects. 3 books I'll recommend. The first is, I wrote it down here. First is Take Off Your Pants. It's a book for pantsers versus plotters, or vice versa. Plotters are people who think out the structure and make a map of where they're going. Pantsers just write from the seat of their pants. A lot of writers like to be pantsers. If you're going to write best-selling genre fiction, you need to be a plotter. You need to think about hitting those same boxes that readers come to expect of that genre, which means making a very detailed chapter, not summary, but you have to have a map. You have to have kind of a guide. There's also a website I keep going back to. Jamie Gold is a paranormal author who has put together a bunch of spreadsheets based on different writing guides. There's a lot of different ways to structure a book, but most of them are similar to or related to the hero's journey, which is the quest, which you'll find the same kind of plot devices and story progressions in movies or video games or mythology going back thousands of years. So if you take some of those main concepts and use them to keep your story going in the right direction, that's really going to help you tell powerful stories that readers are going to love. So I actually downloaded some of those templates, and then I just pasted them all together, and I focused them a little bit more with some of the tips I learned from those books or other books about writing and craft. Really short tips, like in every chapter there has to be conflict. In every chapter there's an open question, and a character has to try to do something and be driven to make a decision, and then that leads into the next chapter. Every chapter kind of goes forward in a certain way. As long as you map things out really well and you know what's going to happen in a certain chapter, then writing is kind of just filling in the blanks. You just have to go chapter by chapter and finish the book. The other thing that I've learned that's pretty important is you want to get everything right the first time, and that's really not going to happen. It's worth spending a lot of time on your story. If things don't feel right, or you're not quite sure what happens in the middle, but you think I'll just start writing and figure it out later, that's going to cause a lot of grief down the line. You've really got to figure out the beginning, the middle, the ending, where you want to end up. It helps if you've got everything perfect, but at the same time, you'll come across new twists and plot devices while you're writing. So even while you're developing chapters, you'll think of new ideas, or usually you'll start with a problem. You'll be like, but how's this work? Or what does this character think about this? Or why would they do this? And then you have to think of some other solution to those problems. So you're always kind of revising, but you have to get through the rough draft just to really figure out what's going to happen in your story. And that's painful, but you've got to get through it. You have to write it, and then you have to go back through and revise it. But that's why I keep the rough draft kind of simple. I skip through parts. You want to make sure that if you're going to spend a lot of time writing a detailed scene, that the scene needs to be there and that it's integral to the story, that you can't just take it out. Then you can go back with the second draft and you can really polish up those scenes. You can add in your sensations, the sight, the touch, the smell. You can describe the room a little bit better, or the costume, or the characters. You can work on your dialogue. But you want to make sure those building blocks are in the right places first before you spend too much time polishing things off. Because what you don't want to do is write a whole bunch of beautiful scenes that you can't use, that don't work for this book, and that you have to take out later. That's a waste of time. Once you do think of your plot and have things going the right way, and you're just filling the blocks, the other thing that I learned that helped me a lot was when I first started writing, I tried to have a third-person omniscient viewpoint so that I could really tell a bigger story, kind of a myth story where I have a lot of different characters in different places. That didn't work for me, and the reason was because I'd never tried to write a book in that style before, and it's a new skill that you have to learn and practice a lot. And I had a lot more experience writing first person, just because if I'm typing in a journal or writing a journal or something, describing what you did today, what you're going to do, you're probably more comfortable with first person narrative. So if you try writing some stories that are just limited to the first person, so you get into a character's head and you just stay within that character, for me that helps just to let the writing flow much more. And finally, let's see if I forget it. The final tip I was going to say was, it's very difficult to write a great book the first time, and it's difficult to get through the first book. If this is your big project, your big life's goal, your dream, the one book that you have to publish in your lifetime, that's something you can spend 10 or 20 years on and always be revising and always be improving. You don't really want to practice your writing on that book, because you'll get so many layers and so many different chapters, and you'll go through such a process of discovery that by the time you finish writing it, you hate everything you wrote before, because you've learned how to write and you're a much better writer now than you were when you started it. That's why it's much easier to start with things that don't really matter. You can publish some short fiction, you can publish some fan fiction on Kindle or Amazon. You can write some stories, just shoot for 10,000 words of practice, 10 or 20,000 words, where you just say, I'm going to start this cool story idea. I'm not really going to flesh it out. I don't care if it's perfect. I'm just going to write these 20,000 words. Get in the writing habit. Write your 2,000 words a day. You can write a 20,000 word short story or novel. You can write 2 or 3 of them a month and do that for a while and actually go through the process of formatting them, publishing them. Don't spend a lot of money, but just kind of figure out what you're doing and put them out there to get over that initial resistance and also the initial fear, and also learning how to self-publish. You'll learn a lot on those projects that you don't really care about, and it doesn't really matter if nobody likes them or if they get negative reviews. You can even you don't have to use your real name on those projects. You can just have a pen name for those projects that are just considered sort of throwaway work. The nice thing is you can actually get real readers and get real feedback. It's kind of like being in a writing class, but you're not paying for it. You're putting your work out there for free, and reviewers will tell you what's wrong with it, and you'll be able to use that information and become a better writer, which is much better than almost like paying for a community college writing course or something, because you're getting real feedback on your work. You might get a lot of negative reviews, but if you have tough skin and if you use a pen name, that doesn't really matter. You can use that experience to learn how to be a better writer, so that when you start writing that really important book that you want to write, you'll be much better at it and more capable of making it as good as it needs to be. Thanks. Good luck with your writing.